Epstein is dead.
Yes.
Epstein is dead.
Yes.
Epstein is dead.
Yes.
He laughed when she said Epstein is dead. Ladies and gentlemen, the pedophile prince just became the prime suspect in the Epstein murder investigation. Of course, the pedophile prince was pictured on the day that Epstein was announced dead, and nobody had ever seen a smile so big. And so instantly he became suspect number one. Let's see what the prince is hiding in this disastrous Fukushima-like interview on the BBC.
During these times that he was a guest at Windsor Castle at Sandringham, the shooting weekend, we now know that he was and had been procuring young girls for sex trafficking.
We now know that. At the time, there was no indication to me or anybody else that that was what he was doing.
Everybody knew that Epstein was into young women. Donald Trump at the time was quoted as saying, Epstein's a wonderful guy. He loves the young women. Let's listen in. You know, it already begins, ladies and gentlemen.
You have to remember that at the time, I was patron of the NSPCC's Full Stop campaign, so I was close up with what was going on in those time about getting rid of abuse to children. So I knew what the things were to look for, but I.
And that's usually how it works. The pedophiles are always near the children, and they love being in these organizations that help traffic children. We saw this quite clearly with the Haiti situation. They were lifting children out of there, and they got busted for it. And this just confirms everything that people have been talking about for years. It just gets worse. You have to wonder who put this guy on the BBC.
Never saw them.
So you would have made that connection because you stayed with him, you were a visitor, a guest on many occasions at his homes, and nothing struck you as suspicious during that whole time?
No, nothing.
Just for the record, you've been on his private plane.
Yes.
Yep.
You've been to stay on his private island.
Yes.
You've stayed at his home in Palm Beach.
Yes.
You visited Ghislaine Maxwell's house in Belgravia in London.
Yes.
So in 2006, in May, an arrest warrant was issued for Epstein for sexual assault of a minor.
Yes.
In July, he was invited to Windsor Castle to your daughter Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday. Why would you do that?
As a wanted man, Epstein basically gets invited to Buckingham Palace. Listen to this.
Because I was asking Ghislaine.
What?
So he came to that party knowing police were investigating him.
Well, I'm not quite sure whether was it police that I don't know. You see, this is the
It
problem.
was the
I
Palm
really
Beach
don't know.
police.
Anytime they play stupid, ladies and gentlemen, you know that they're covering up, and you know they're just trying to seed doubt, and they're trying to, you know, procure some plausible deniability. But it's looking real bad for the prince here. Let's continue on.
2008, he was convicted of soliciting and procuring a minor for prostitution. He was jailed. This was your friend. How did you feel about it? He was released in July. Within months, by December of 2010, you went to stay with him at his New York mansion. Why? Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right.
Why?
I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together. And I had a number of people counsel me in both directions, either to go and see him or not to go and see him. And I took the judgment call that because this was serious, and I felt that doing it over the telephone was the chicken's way of doing it.
Now, supposedly, he hasn't talked to Epstein in 4 years. Epstein gets out of prison and he's like, I gotta go over there and tell him that I'm not gonna be his friend anymore. And, nobody believes that, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this whole story is just so bad. I mean, you have to wonder why they even did it in the first place. And throughout this entire interview, he's like, I don't remember, I can't recall. So what's the point if you're going to come on camera and just tell the whole world that you don't know, you can't remember, there's just too many drugs involved, and there's plenty of evidence of that.
And I took the decision that I had to show leadership, and I had to go and see him, and I had to tell him that's it.
That was December of 2010.
Yep.
He threw a party to celebrate his release, and you were invited as the guest of honor.
Oh, in 2010, that certainly wasn't a party to celebrate his release in December.
It was October, bitches.
Because it was a small dinner party. There were only 8 or 10 of us, I think, at the dinner. If there was a party, then I'd know nothing about that.
You were invited to that dinner as a guest of honor.
Well, I was there, so there was a dinner. I don't think it was quite as you might put it, but yeah, okay. I was there at a dinner. Yeah.
I'm just trying to work this out because you said you went to break up the relationship, and yet you stayed at that New York mansion several days. I'm wondering how long.
But I was doing a number of other things while I was there.
You were staying at the house of a convicted sex offender.
Damn.
It was a convenient place to stay.
That's the best. I mean, they got the consulate right next door, basically. You got the Hyatt, you got the Trump Hotel, but he just happens to land in, Pedophile Island, New York City.
And I admit fully that my judgment was probably colored by my
desire to rape young children, yes, and take drugs, of course.
Tendency to be too honorable, but that's just the way it is.
It is.
Because during that time, those few days, witnesses say they saw many young girls coming and going at the time. There is video footage of Epstein accompanied by young girls, and you were there staying in his house, catching up with friends.
If they were, then I wasn't a party to any of that. What they were doing and why they were there, I had nothing to do with. So I'm afraid I can't make any comment on that.
I can't help you with that.
I really don't know.
Another guest was John Brockman, the literary agent.
You see there? He got real scared there. You got his testimony? Oh shit, here it comes.
Now, he described seeing you there getting a foot massage from a young Russian woman. Did that happen?
Me? No.
You're absolutely sure, or you can't remember?
Absolutely sure.
So John Brockman's statement is false?
Well, I don't know Mr. Brockman, so I don't know what he's talking about.
But that.
So he doesn't actually call anybody a liar in this interview. He just says he can't remember. And, as far as he knows, this is like, legalese for not getting, hit with perjury. I don't recall is what you hear, people say all the time when they're testifying versus yes and no. As far as I know, it didn't happen that way.
Definitely wasn't you getting a foot massage from a Russian girl in Jeffrey Epstein's house.
No.
Oh.
It might seem a funny way to break off a friendship, a 4-day house party of sorts with a dinner.
A 4-day house party of sorts. So you've probably seen the footage of this. Let's see if we can get a hold of the video guy. So this was the footage in December 2010. This is the 4-day house party. And, women are just coming in and out all day, all night. So they're all cranked up, methed up, coked up, and, participating in orgies for 4 days. You know what I mean? And, you see the girl to the door. We see, maybe people going in and out, but he's not there at the door being the bellboy. He's actually escorting his date out to the street. Thanks, honey. Thanks again for everything. So we're going to get into part 2 of this BBC interview. We've condensed the 1 hour into, maybe 20, 30 minutes, but honestly, we could have sat through the whole thing with you and made comments because it was pretty juicy. So let's get with it. And of course, remember this part.
Epstein is dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Epstein is dead.
Yes.
Yes. Prime suspect, bitches. You heard it here first. And let's get on with our part 2 of this interview. This is where it gets real bad, ladies and gentlemen.
July of this year, Epstein was arrested on charges of sex trafficking and abusing dozens of underage girls.
Dozens.
One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts,
Yeah.
has made allegations against you. She says she met you in 2001. She says she dined with you, danced with you at Tramp nightclub in London. She went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell, your friend. Your response?
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
You don't remember meeting her?
No.
She says she met you in 2001. She dined with you. She danced with you. You bought her drinks. You were in Tramp nightclub in London. And she went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell.
Didn't happen.
No.
Do you remember her?
No.
Too many drugs.
I have no recollection of ever meeting her. I'm almost, in fact, I'm convinced that I was never in Tramps with her. There are a number of things that are wrong with that story. One of which is that I don't know where the bar is in Tramps. I don't drink. I don't think I've ever bought a drink in Tramps.
So he doesn't know where the bar is, but when he's there, he's certainly never bought anybody a drink.
Whenever I was there,
Do you remember dancing at Tramp?
no. That couldn't have happened because the date that is being suggested, I was at home with the children.
You know that you were at home with the children. Was it a memorable night?
On that particular day that we now understand is the date, which is the 10th of March, I was at home. I was with the children. I'd taken Beatrice to a Pizza Express in Woking for a party at I suppose sort of 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And then because the
At the pizza place, at the pizza gate.
Duchess was away, we have a simple rule in the family that when one's away, the other one's there. I was on terminal leave at the time from the Royal Navy, so therefore I was at home.
Why would you remember that so specifically? Why would you remember a Pizza Express birthday and being at home?
Because going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing for me to do. A very unusual thing for me to do. I've only been to Woking a couple of times, and I remember it weirdly distinctly. As soon as somebody reminded me of it, I went, oh yes, I remember that. But I have no recollection of ever meeting or being in the company or the presence.
So you're absolutely sure that you're at home on the 10th of March.
Yeah.
She was very specific about that night. She described dancing with you and you profusely sweating, and that she went on to have bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time, and that was, actually, yes, I didn't sweat at the time because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I...
Wow. An overdose of adrenaline. So there's just no way her story could be true because he just doesn't sweat anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, is this the best excuse you've ever heard in your entire life when it comes to everything? You know, he wasn't with the girl that night because he was at the pizza place, and he remembers that because he never goes to the pizza place. So what a coincidence. Otherwise, you know, the story might not have worked out as well. And of course, she says that he was sweating like a pig. And he's like, no, I got balls of steel. I was in the Falklands and, I had the adrenochrome over there, which prevented me from sweating every other day. Incredible.
I was shot at, and I simply, it was almost impossible for me to sweat. And it's only because I have done a number of things in the recent past that I'm starting to be able to do that again. So I'm afraid to say that
most people that have been in war and have PTSD, basically are up all night sweating. And this guy doesn't sweat. It's amazing.
that there's a medical condition that says that I didn't do it, so therefore...
Is it possible that you met Virginia Roberts, dined with her, danced with her in Tramp, had sex with her on another date?
Oh,
No.
No.
Do you remember meeting her at all?
No.
Do you know you didn't meet her, or do you just not remember
No,
meeting her?
I have. I don't know if I've met her, but no.
I don't know if I've met her. Well, it looks like you did.
I have no recollection of meeting her.
I just don't
Because she
remember.
was very specific. She described the dance that you had together in Tramp. She described meeting you. She was a 17-year-old girl meeting a senior member of the royal family.
Never happened.
She provided a photo of the
He doesn't know, but he's like, it never happened.
Yes.
two of you together.
Yes.
Your arm was around her waist.
Yes.
You've seen the photo.
I've seen the photograph.
How do you explain that?
I can't. Because I have absolutely no memory of that photograph ever being taken.
Do you recognise yourself in the photo?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult not to recognise yourself.
Your friend suggested that the photo is fake.
I think it's, from the investigations that we've done, you can't prove whether or not that photograph is faked or not, because it is a photograph of a photograph of a photograph. So it's very difficult to be able to prove it. But I don't remember that photograph ever being taken.
But it's possible that it was you with your arm around
That's
her
me, but whether that's my hand or whether that's the position, but I have simply no recollection of a photograph ever being taken.
The world has now seen the photo that Virginia Roberts provided, taken by Epstein, we understand, in Ghislaine Maxwell's house.
Well, here's the problem. I've never seen Epstein with a camera in my life.
I think it was Virginia Roberts' camera. She said a little Kodak one that she lent to Epstein. He took a photo, and your arm is round her waist.
I don't remember
That's all he could say.
that photograph ever being taken. I don't remember going upstairs in the house, because that photograph is taken upstairs. And I'm not entirely convinced that, I mean, that is what I would describe as me in that picture. But we can't be certain as to whether or not that's my hand on her
Waist.
whatever it is, left side.
You think that...
Because I have no recollection of that photograph ever being taken.
So why would somebody have put in another hand? You think it is you next to her in the photo?
Oh, it's definitely me. I mean, that's a picture of me. It's not a picture of. I don't believe it's a picture of me in London, because when I go out in London, I wear a suit and a tie. That's what I would describe as, those are my travelling clothes if I'm going overseas. So I've got plenty of photographs of me dressed in those sorts of sort of kit, but not there.
Just a
So yeah, there are numerous photos of the prince out there in just casual wear. And of course, many photos of the prince at party scenes touching women. You know, he's going to say that, oh, he would never touch a woman intimately, et cetera, et cetera. But there's quite a few intimate looking pictures of the prince partying with Epstein and the crew in New York and everywhere else. And, you know, there's just so much evidence that it's pretty incredible that they would say that it's not possible. We're also getting numerous reports of him showing up uninvited, begging for sex, according to starlets out there in Pedowood. And, again, just more casual, intimate pictures and the like. Let's get back to this bombshell interview.
Clarify, so you think that photo has been faked?
Nobody can prove whether or not that photograph has been doctored, but I don't recollect that photograph ever being taken.
And you don't recollect having your hand
No.
round her waist
No.
in Ghislaine Maxwell's house on any occasion, even if it was a different
I'm terribly
date?
sorry, but if I, as a member of the royal family, and I have a photograph taken, and I take very, very few photographs, I am not one to, as it were, hug, and public displays of affection are not something that I do. So
there's another one. How many lies and excuses have we heard? And it's just, real bad circumstances here. Again, this guy has become prime suspect number one based on his own testimony here on this BBC interview.
Epstein is dead.
yes,
Yes.
Epstein is dead.
yes,
Yes.
Epstein.
I mean, who says that? Most people feel a little something maybe, but this guy is, yes. I mean, they were supposed to be close friends, ladies and gentlemen.
That's the best explanation I can give you, and I'm afraid to say that I don't believe that photograph was taken in the way that has been suggested.
Why would people not believe that you were there?
I'm sorry.
What?
why would-
I'm just trying to understand. There's a photo inside Ghislaine Maxwell's house. Ghislaine herself is in the background. Why would people not believe that you were there with her that night?
Well, they might well wish to believe it, but the photograph is taken upstairs, and I don't think I ever went upstairs
Oh, okay.
in Ghislaine's house.
Really?
You're
always-
sure of that?
Yeah, because the dining room and everything was on the ground floor.
Yeah. And he only comes over to dine, ladies and gentlemen, not to wine.
And it was as you came in the hall. So I don't remember ever going up there.
Oh.
I'm at a loss to explain this particular photograph. If the original was ever produced, then perhaps we might be able to solve it. But I
But
can't.
you can.
I bet the people on Saturday Night Live are like, fuck, why didn't we, think of this?
Say categorically that you don't recall meeting Virginia Roberts, dining with her,
Yep.
dancing with her at Tramp, or
Yep.
going on to have sex with her
Yes.
in a bedroom in a house in Belgravia.
Oh no.
I can absolutely categorically tell you it never happened.
Okay.
Do you recall any kind of sexual contact with Virginia Roberts then
None.
or any other time?
None whatsoever.
Because
I've been pushing it out of my mind. I can't remember a fucking thing. The hypnosis worked like a charm, bitches.
she said in a legal deposition, a legal court document in 2015, she had sex with you 3 times. She is not confused about this. She said the first was in London when she was trafficked to you. The second
Why is
was
he
at
laughing there?
Epstein's mansion in New York.
That is a date in April, I believe. Is that correct?
She said it was
He can remember that.
a
Yeah.
month or so later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that the date that we have for that shows that I was in Boston, or I was in New York.
So in all the places of the world, he's like actually in that city on that date. How did she know that? You know what I mean? If she wasn't aware. You know what I mean? I mean, this is bad.
The previous day, and I was at a dinner for the Outward Bound Trust in New York, and then I flew up to Boston the following day. And then on the day that she says that this occurred, they'd already left to go to the island before I got back from Boston. So I don't think that could have happened at all.
Well, I mean, she could have left, an hour after the fact. Doesn't take too long to get to the airport and get on the private jet with Mr. Epstein.
There was a witness there, Johanna Stolberg, who says that you did visit the house in that month.
I probably did. I don't think. On one of the weird things, I was staying with the, because of what I was doing, I was staying with the Consul General.
Oh, so he was in the embassy. I mean, he could be at the embassy all the time, but he, is having 4-day orgies over at Epstein's house. I mean,
which is further down the street.
Oh.
On 5th. So I wasn't staying there. I may have visited, but no.
No.
Definitely no activity.
Okay.
Because in a legal deposition, 2015, she said she had sex with you 3 times. Once in a London house when she was trafficked to you in Maxwell's house.
Yes.
Once in New York a month or so later at Epstein's mansion, and once on his private island in a group of 7 or 8 other girls.
Wow.
No.
No to all of it.
All of it.
Of course.
Absolutely no to all of it.
Why would she be saying those things?
We wonder exactly the same, but I have no idea. Absolutely no idea.
She made these claims in a US deposition.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying you don't believe her? She's lying.
Well, somebody killed Epstein.
That's a very difficult thing to answer, because I'm not in a position to know what she's trying to achieve, but I can tell you categorically, I
I mean, this guy's done. I mean,
don't remember meeting her at all. I do not remember a photograph being taken, and I've said consistently and frequently that we never had any sort of sexual contact whatever.
She spoke about you outside the court in August of this year.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I quote, "He knows exactly what he's done, and I hope he comes clean about it."
And the answer is nothing.
So if Virginia Roberts is watching this interview, what is your message to her?
I don't have a message for her, because I have to have a thick skin. If somebody's going to make those sorts of allegations, then I'm just going to have a thick skin and get on with it. But they never happened.
For the record, is there any way you could have had sex with that young woman or any young woman trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein in any of his residences?
No. And without putting too fine a point on it, if you're a man, it is a positive act to have sex with somebody. You have to take some sort of positive action. And so therefore, if you try to forget, it's very difficult to try and forget positive action. And I do not remember anything. I've racked my brain and thinking, oh, well, when the allegations came out originally, I went, well, that's a bit strange, I don't remember this. And then I've been through it.
I don't remember an orgy with 7 people. That's a bit strange. I mean,
through it over and over and over again. And
I mean, it would just either be yes or no. I mean, like, when you get these like huge, long, elaborate excuses with, truffled with I can't remember, yet, there's plenty of pictures and evidence that we do remember. It's just like, I don't know if I had sex with that girl. Maybe. There's been so many. I can't say for sure. There was this one and that one. I racked my brain all night long, and I'm like, nah, I'd never touch nobody like that. That's pretty much, it. I think there's a few more minutes that we're going to play here, but...
No, nothing.
Nothing.
Never happened.
Epstein's housekeeper, also in a Florida court legal deposition, said that you visited the Palm Beach residence around 4 times a year. You got a daily massage.
4 times a year?
That was what he said in a Florida court legal deposition.
No.
Oh.
I'm just wondering, when you look back now, is there a chance that those massages might have been the services of someone who was being sexually exploited or trafficked by Epstein?
No. I don't think. I mean, no, definitely not.
No, definitely.
Definitely not. And I definitely did not visit.
There might have been that one girl.
His Palm Beach house 3 or 4 times a year. Absolutely not.
That's like every couple of months, you know.
In total, probably 4 times.
Probably.
In total,
He can't remember. He doesn't know.
I knew him. In fact, probably that was the place that if you see what I mean, he was in the house more there than in other places.
If you see what I mean.
So that's where you'd find him.
Yeah.
But it was usually because I was going.
I would just show up.
I was going through and on somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it was a day. That was it.
It's like a junkie, you know, showing up like, you know, unannounced. I need my shit, and that's basically the look, you know, that we get from this guy at Central Park. I don't know if we've got that anywhere. The video guy's on vacation. But he did a better job today than the other days. In any case, you know, the relationship looks like, you know, drug addict and drug dealer. And, you know, he's just showing up, you know, unannounced in Florida. That's where he is most of the time. You know, I might as well just see if he's there.
You said in your statement from the palace,
Yep.
at no time did I see, witness or suspect any suspicious behavior.
Yeah.
And it's like, what, phones don't work? They had like 10 phone numbers for this guy in the black book. You don't think that they can get a hold of each other? It's just...
Junior Roberts' legal team says you could not spend time around Epstein and not know what was going on. You could not spend time around Epstein and not know what was going on.
If you are somebody like me, then people behave in a subtly different way. You wouldn't, first of all, I'm not looking for it. That's the thing. You see, if you're looking for it, then you might have suspected now, with the benefit of a huge amount of hindsight and a huge amount of analysis, you look back and you go, well, was that really the way that it was? Or,
You know, and this guy at the beginning of the interview was like, he was working for some kind of child rescue organization. He knows all the things to look for. And now he's like, you know, looking back at it, well, maybe.
was I looking at it the wrong way? But you don't go into these places, you don't go to stay with people looking for that.
He's like a trained creep hunter from a child rescue organization, and he doesn't know what to look for.
Could not spend time around him. That was what they said. You could not spend time around him and not know.
Look, you know, he's had enough, and he's about to cry. And I'm wondering if anybody asked him after the interview was done, you know, how'd it go?
Epstein is dead.
Yes.
Yes.
Epstein is dead.
Yes.
So look, at this stage, I think we've got a new suspect. Of course, there's plenty of them out there when it comes to the Epstein case. Epstein was involved with everyone, and the story just kind of went away after a flood of Gladio B events, you know, in Iran, Syria, and the like, and now the impeachment hearings. You know, we'll never be talking about Epstein or the island again, but perhaps we should be. Somebody whacked Epstein, and those people are still out there raping and trafficking children. And I think everybody has a vested interest in finding out what really happened there, regardless of where the evidence leads us, ladies and gentlemen. These people are murdering children, and of course they're doing so in line with their Luciferian ideologies. And it's the epic struggle of good versus evil out there. It's not about Republican or Democrat. It's about cult members versus Christians. And these people want to take everybody out. They want to basically condition every child, every person out there through schools and the television to be an atheist, to be a Luciferian, to be, secular versus spiritual out there. And I think that's truly a big mistake. There's so much more going on out there than, just these buildings in the Matrix, just these phones that we find ourselves with and the like. Be sure to check out the Bible. Till the next time, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this, you are the resistance.